I must keep this short because my husband says he wants breakfast at some point before noon. It's only 9 o'clock. He complains a lot. Does your husband complain a lot? Perhaps he would complain a lot less if I actually fed him every once in a while.
Have it just once a day. Is that too much to ask for?
He's gonna go to his grave saying I never fed him. All right, friends. In our continuous saga of looking at women in the Bible, one of the most multifaceted women in the Bible, I think, is Sarah. Sarai. She she is lauded as a faithful woman in the New Testament. She called Abraham my Lord, and we're as women we're supposed to have her as an example of uh, a godly woman. Okay, now we are supposed to imitate, I think, her faith, not necessarily her behavior, 100%. Okay, because let me just say this: she she was pregnant with her son Isaac. Okay, and she had her baby as per what God said that she would get. And now the woman that she gave to Abraham to bear children for Abraham has had a baby. This young man, I don't know, he's probably in his he's not a toddler, I don't believe. But he's coming of age, he's getting older, and now you got two heirs, possible heirs to the fortune of Abraham, because Abraham has been blessed by God left and right. He's got cattle and tents and slaves and all this other stuff. So now you have a power struggle that is beginning to form. And Sarah sees this and she tells Abraham, get rid of the woman. Okay. Uh, and she sort of does the same thing that was it Pontius Pilate that washes her hands off of him. And in the end, you kind of figure in a little bit that maybe Abraham does have some responsibility in this, because when Sarah, who had been told that she would have a baby, Abraham was also told that God would give them a child. They proceeded to do take the fruit before it was their turn to take it, right? Kind of going back to the Garden of Eden narrative. And so now they have to pay for the consequences of their behavior. Now Sarah was cruel to her slave, okay, out of jealousy, out of whatever, but she was angry with her and made her flee. God said, go back and submit to your mistress. Okay. Now we're again, and Sarah's looking at the slave woman, and she's a threat to her son and to her son's dominion, even though God already said, yes, he will have cattle, he will be a great man, but it is your son Abraham and Sarah that's going to inherit the land, right? It will be your descendants. So we go to chapter uh just before Sarah and Abraham get rid of the slave woman one more time. He God renews the covenant again, yet again, with Abraham with Abraham in particular, reiterates that his son will be heir of the land and all that. And then, so she has her baby. Let's see, chapter 20. Let me go back a second. So they send away the slave woman. What's her name? I'm trying to find her name. My mind is Smoosh some days, but bear with me and we'll find her name here. Not Rahab. Why I always want to say Rahab, but it's not the name. Bless you.
Man. That time of year.
Yeah, it is. My brain this is. What was that Rahab? Not Rahab, but the Egyptian woman,
Which Egyptian woman?
the one with the. My brain is does not want to register her name for some Hagar. Okay, oh, why? And I knew this, like I could see it in my brain. Have you ever had that? Like you see something in your brain, but you can't quite spit it out. Anyways, Hagar, they
Moses' wife was Egyptian. She was a black lady from Ethiopia.
yes, I think it might rain after all.
You think so?
Yes, it looks
No,
like it's gonna rain. Anyways, you don't care about that. Hang on.
not
So
really.
no, them. But so Hagar is kicked out of the safety of Abraham's household. Okay, he gives her some bread and some water, and out you go with your son. Now Hagar is wandering through the desert, and she's run out of food, run out of water, and she puts her son in a little bush, and she goes a little distance, stone throws, because she doesn't want to hear the baby or the child uh, die. Okay, this is the the distress, the sadness, the pain that both Abraham and Sarah have caused. Okay, it's only remedied by Yahweh Himself. Okay, right? So she's sitting there and she puts the baby out there and she's like, "Cause I don't want to hear him cry." Um, let me see. I want to see that for you. Hang on. Okay, so let's talk about this now. Go back just a little bit, okay? God, Sarah says, get rid of the slave woman. Yahweh tells Abraham, go ahead and do whatever Sarah says, okay? Now, I want you to think now, he knew that uh, the slave woman Hagar would be in danger by in her the child. He knew, and she and Sarah knew, because they were no dummies. Okay, now she would be in danger in the middle of the desert by herself with a child. That's risking their lives. Now, God said, "Go ahead and do whatever your wife, whatever Sarah says to do." All right. Now, I want you to think back to Sodom and Gomorrah. Abraham very boldly talked God down from destroying the entire people only for the 10 righteous people. Okay? So he Abraham didn't care. My thinking is he didn't care necessarily what would happen to Sarah or to Hagar. Otherwise, he would have probably argued with God for her as well, right? There is this relationship between God, between Yahweh and Abraham that is so close and intertwined, where Abraham felt bold enough to advocate for the people of Sodom and Gomorrah, but he didn't feel he could advocate for a woman that he laid with and a child that he procreated. Okay, Abraham, God has great faith. He grows into a great nation, all of that. And God is just an example of the things and the kind of people that God works through and with. Okay. That's a sin. What Abraham did was bad. What Sarah did were bad. There's no way to justify it. Okay. They took a woman that was vulnerable and a child that was also vulnerable, and sent them out to death, certain death. Okay, except Yahweh. All right. So Hagar meets God in the and there's all sort of beautiful symbolism in that particular passage with water and the water of life and stuff like that. Read it. It's fantastic, but that's not what we're here for. Okay, so God saves Hagar and the baby, Ishmael, and you think it's over, right? But we go to Genesis 22, and what do we have now? Abraham, God tested Abraham, and he said, I want your child." Okay. Now it is indeed a test of faith for Abraham. And look, if we learn something from the book of Job, is that God doesn't necessarily work in tit for tat, right? But we do know whether it happens now. Okay, let me back up. In the books of Kings and Chronicles, all right, you get a lot of this where the one king does something really bad. God says, "I'm going to take the kingdom away from you on your next generation." So that one king dies, and then the kingdom is taken away from that king on the next generation, except that the next king also does things against the will of Yahweh. Okay. So while this is the beginning of the consequences of the behavior happen to the person and the king on the next generation, but they also have their own personal sin that they have to deal with. We don't pay for other people's sins. Okay. That's not how that works. Okay. And it's like God doesn't a hundred is doesn't it's simple tit for tat morality is not what God does. But the one thing that you can see in the universe is that for every action there's an equal and opposite reaction. Okay. And one thing that Abraham thought maybe God will bring me my son back because he did promise all these things. But remember, the widows, the orphans, Hagar, Ishmael, belong to Yahweh. Okay? And if you do not care for them, he will kill you. It is in the book of Genesis. No, the book of Exodus. Okay? There is definitely a heart, and Jesus has a heart for the poor, the orphans, the widows, and everybody else. Okay? That is disenfranchised, this poor, that has no protection. So here is the opposite reaction of the sins of Sarah, the sins of Abraham. Okay, you try to kill one of my children. What if I take yours? Okay, and it was also, and it's very clearly told to you that there was also a test of faith. But this is the beauty of Yahweh, how God works. Okay, he doesn't do tit for tat. Okay, he tests you in things and on the things that you do, and he forgives you, and we move on. Okay, he doesn't hold the things that you have repented from away from you. And both Sarah and Abraham are guilty here. Okay. Now, we have a tendency to say, well, he made all, it's a patriarchy and all that. No, okay. You could totally see Sarah's influence on all of this in the behaviors and the things that they did. And sometimes I wonder if, I mean, Abraham was just trying to keep the peace with his wife, which is probably true. Okay. But again, it's not what I'm trying to get for you is that you need to read literally, not literary. Okay, so one of the problems that we have in the biblical narratives is that we read literally what is there, but we are incapable sometimes of reading the subtext behind it. Ask questions. These are not, asking whether Sarah was a good or a bad woman is not a bad question to ask. Was she a good woman? Was she a bad person? She was like you and I, ladies, a woman with a lot of dimension that makes good decisions and bad decisions, who thinks that if I shortcut this one thing, I'll be able to get what I want. Okay, that we that if I can just uh, I don't want to say bully yourself, but if I can just be uh, strong enough and I can push hard enough, I will get my way and things will be fine. But that's not how things work. You, you hear this phrase a lot, but the fact of the matter is sometimes you have to wait on God. And the prayer, when you pray to God, sometimes the answer is that is not good for you. You need to wait. Not now.
Sometimes the answer is just no.
And sometimes the answer is just no. And sometimes the answer, and most of the time, the answer is not that, but something better. Okay. So just the idea that Sarah was some sort of the victim here, nah, friends. I'm sorry to say this, but Sarah not only was it, stop that. Come here.
That's a vicious little kitty cat.
Sarah was not a victim. She was she was victimized by her husband's behavior, but she was also an abuser of Hagar. And the only reason Hagar was saved is because God saw her. And isn't that just beautiful? Because let me say this. It is not the patriarch or the wife of the patriarch that God sees, but he also sees the lowly, the poor, the the slave, everybody. The people that the people, God sees the people that have become invisible to our eyes. And in our modern society, I'm thinking the homeless, the people that have drug issues, the people that struggle every day. And so my call to you would be, who are you blinding yourself to on your daily life? Is it your neighbor that is struggling? Is it someone you know at work that uh, is struggling to pay their bills? And you know this, you could help a little bit and you don't. And if you can figure out how to help somebody in your life that has become blind, that you become blind to, and let them have the dignity, do it. Let me tell you, we say all these things about God doesn't, God doesn't really work with. The charismatic movement has this thing where plant a seed and God will reward you and all of this and that. And the people of the reform movements and all of this and that tell you that's not how God works. But let me tell you, how can you say that? And I'm not saying give money to that one person so that they can have a jet plane. I'm saying you give so that you can become the blessing to somebody. They don't need to know who you are. God can see. Okay? You give in secret. So God, who sees in secret, knows what you're doing. And yeah, just Open your eyes to the people around you. Don't let people become invisible to you, uh, because they're not invisible to God, and neither are you. And He knows when you have it to give and you withhold it from someone. Anyways, Sarah's done, Hagar done together. We're gonna have to circle back to the two daughters of Lot, because okay, I'm gonna give you a little preview. When I first read the very first time I really went through the Bible, I got to that point and I went like, no, this is bleh. Okay. So yeah, and it is. It should be a natural reaction to you. That's correct. God, that's the idea of, what would you call that?
I wasn't
Patricide,
listening.
Lot and his daughters, patricide, whatever.
Incest.
Incest.
Yeah.
Is that what incest? Okay.
Woo.
Well,
Incest is best. That's gross.
ah! Anyways,
Ah.
that idea
Well, she
just,
got him drunk.
they no, he got that, they got
They
him
got him
drunk.
drunk. That's what I
Yeah.
said. She got him drunk.
So, anyways, we'll talk about them. And look, uh,
Mhm.
I do everything with a sense of humor, okay?
Oh yeah.
Because you have to. It makes life better.
Mhm.
Anyways, God bless. I'm trying to get you to see behind the story, okay? Not that you're writing new story, not that you're writing uh, scripture or anything like that, but with every story there's a background. Okay, every story in the Bible has even more stuff that you couldn't put in writing. So it's for you to walk in the shoes of Sarah, walk in the shoes of Abraham, walk in the sandals of Hagar and the babies, and look, put yourself in those places, and then feel what God would feel when his children mistreat and abuse each other. All right. Anyways, God bless. I hope this helped you in some way. Hey, we have a Facebook group. I started a Facebook group. There's really just me and another lady that signed up, which I love. And what I'm trying to do there is create a resource for the things that I wish I had when I first read the Bible. And it's just uh, not only male theologians, which you can get all the names in the world out there, but the the female, the historians, the philosophers, the people that take the Bible and question things, and they have written books and all that, and it's just sort of a fan club. Come share who you like, uh, who you read that you thought, oh yeah, they redefine the way I look at the Bible. All right, it's a public group right now, and depending if we grow, you'll well, we might make it private, but for now it's public. You can just join, be nice, don't call anybody a heretic or a, that's the other one, the heretics or blasphemers. Asking questions of God is not is not a blasphemy, and God is not scared of your questions. Let's say hi. This is Franklin. Say toodaloo. Oh no, no, no! Don't make my head. Okay. Bye. God bless.